Now, full disclaimer, I played this game on an emulator. Because, well, let's face it, you won't be buying a physical copy of this game, like, at all. Brand new copies are going for as high as 13,000, and the lowest I've seen a used game going for was $260. Yeah, this is a really expensive game, but that's mainly because of the misconceptions about it. It actually got banned in a couple of countries because people thought this game's purpose was to do, unsavory things to kids. I'm keeping it very, very, very fucking vague because while I've abandoned my goals of trying to make money on YouTube a very, very long time ago, I still don't want this channel banned. Now, that claim was obviously untrue, but it actually did manage to get banned in some European countries, as I already stated. From my understanding, said countries are the UK and Italy. The rest of Europe did indeed get the game. I mean, it does have a PEGI rating. However, I believe people across the world were a little bit hesitant in buying the game because of its controversy. That would explain why there are, well, barely any copies out there. Well, that, and it didn't really review that well from my understanding. On Metacritic, it has a score of 59, and IGN gave it a 4.9 out of 10, so add this on with misinformation, and I think I can confidently say that it probably clouded some people's minds. Now, I could be wrong and putting words into other people's mouths, so I do apologize for that, but with my research, it's just a guess. I do find Rule of Rose to be a game worth viewing at least once. It's just, I don't really recommend playing the game only because of how bad the combat is. However, I do think you should at least watch a Let's Play of this game. It is heavily, heavily underrated, and I just love it. Not my favorite story game, only because of what happens to Brown. Petty reason, yes, but I am indeed a dog person, damn it! But jokes aside, how does this game hold up? Well, let's find out with my review of Rule of Rose. In this story, we follow Jennifer, a British girl headed somewhere on a bus. A boy presents her with a crude storybook, asking her to read it to him until he runs off. Chasing after the boy, she finds a shed with a dog collar and a boarding pass ticket, at least that's what I think it is. And going further up the path, she finds a house. This house seems familiar to her, and using that ticket, she enters the property, following the boy into the building. When she finds him, she's given the same request. After reading the book, there's an announcement about a funeral, and digging up the buried crate, all she finds is a bloody bag. Being tossed into said crate, she then awakens tied up in a room called the Filth Room. She is then forced to join the Aristocrat Club, wherein every month she has to find one gift and present it to the club. Upon exploring the airship, she finds random kids, and a random dog being bound by rope and suspended. Sorry, went a little overboard, but again, dog person, so that did indeed get to me. I probably would have went on the warpath if someone did that to my dog, but upon freeing the dog, it's revealed that his name is Brown, due to him reacting to the name. Having Brown helping you out, Jennifer is able to find this month's gift. A beautiful butterfly. And when she turns it in, she is dragged into a meeting of the aristocrats. And well, since Jennifer is on the lowest tier, she gets a nice big ol' rat to the face. During the story, you'll see her struggles each month to get the gifts that the aristocrats want. Jumping back and forth between the airship the gameplay takes place on and the mansion from the start of the game. This is a story full of symbolism. It's like Silent Hill on steroids, and I just love it. It's a bittersweet story with a very sad ending that did make me cry, which I don't want to spoil. It's the kind of story that when you replay it, you'll see how things are put into place. While it's not my favorite gaming story, that would have to go to Persona 3, it's still great, and I recommend that you go into the story completely blind. Though maybe one day I'll make a video going fully into the story. It's a really good story. I do recommend watching at least the cutscenes. This is something I have stated in my live streams of the game, and I will shout out on the rooftops for eternity and say that the battle system fucking blows. Now, throughout the game, you'll encounter these little shits called imps. Just like other survival horror games, you're able to engage them or run from them. Please, if at all possible, run from them, because Jennifer attacking with any other weapon except the handgun will have you ripping your hair out. She's not a fighter. I mean, she looks like a young college student, so I guess it makes sense. Though, if she was raised by me, this would be a horror version of Gears of War, but not the point. Definitely not the point. Imagine the battle systems of Silent Hill 1 through 4, but with shittier animations. I haven't played a lot from those games, but the combat works only because they make you feel vulnerable. Well, except for Homecoming, but that's the exception, not the rule. None of them are fighters, they're just average people. Jennifer is way too timid in her attacks, making combat feel like it's not worth it. Now, you're gonna feel this during boss fights, mainly with Hoffman and the Mermaid Princess. Now, again, if you're not locked into a room with these fuckers, just run! They are easy to fucking run around when you figure them out. Brown can distract enemies, but just have him sniff around. He does take damage and will get knocked out when he takes too much. And it's not worth it through, and especially when you encounter these damn bird imps. They have range, and they will make you feel it. The worst of it was in the Bird of Happiness chapter. Specifically in this part, where you encounter like 10 of these. To make it worse, a couple of them are giant birds that can smack you around like she's a fucking ragdoll. It's not fun, and trust me, going into critical would make this slower than Internet Explorer. A watcher of my live stream said that Jennifer isn't an athlete, but that is an understatement because the speed she's going at makes it seem like she's failed each year of gym class. The other enemy I hate are these pig imps because it feels like you're playing Madden 06 when encountering them. They will knock you down if you're not careful. The best part is when you run up behind them to attack while they're still stuck in their charging animation. It will somehow still knock you down even though you're behind them. I really hope this is my emulator fucking up and not the actual programming of the game. Now, don't think you're running around unarmed, because as you can see, Jennifer can find some weapons, but it only makes the combat barely tolerable, if at all. Well, unless you're playing on New Game Plus like I did for the footage, but melee weapons will be out in the open for you to find. You can also find a gun, but don't bother. It barely does any damage, and I don't think hunting down the ammo is worth it, like, at all. Her attacks are just so pitiful with melee weapons that you'll be left open at times. But then again, you don't really play this for combat. The cool thing about the gameplay actually is Brown. Brown can sniff out items for you and find healing items. It's a cool system, though. It makes it a game of follow the leader, and that kind of bores me. A good chunk of this game is following him around, finding the next key item, and wash, rinse, repeat. It's a good system, though it's a little dull. They did have a fantastic idea that wasn't really utilized that much, and that's just like forcing you to go the long way around by cross-referencing with a map on where to go. Now, this only happened like once in the game in my experience. Well, as far as I'm aware of, actually. I wish we had more of this, because it was a cool thing to happen, even if the bait room was filled with those damn pigs. Now, you do have to be careful because, as already stated, Brown can take damage. You're able to heal him, however, after a while he will start slowing down and just pass out. He cannot die, but if his health is empty, he won't track items or distract enemies. You won't have to worry about any of this, however, if you just keep moving around. Enemies tend not to pay attention to Brown that much, so just let him do his job and maneuver around them. Though, in hindsight, I guess that's kind of why they added the combat, because without it, I can see this becoming really dull really fast, because all you have to do is just follow Brown around like a walking simulator. So I guess you have to take the good with the bad in this game. There's also a very small amount of item management. It was pointless. but I will say it's the best version of Resident Evil Zero's item management. In that game, there are no item boxes. All you can do is drop the item. I will talk about this more when I get to Resident Evil Zero and that Resident Evil marathon I talked about before. But the reason why I say it's better here is that each item Jennifer drops will be put in this game's version of the item box no matter what, which is the trash can. Oh, that's disgusting. And one mechanic I actually do love that I wish a lot of games had is the hint system. If you haven't played the game in a very long time and haven't beaten it, if you talk to the Bucket Knight, this game's typewriter, he can actually point you on the right path. Now, this game has very, very few bosses, which I am thankful for. However, the mermaid is the worst of them. She's on a pulley system and she comes down to take some swipes at Jennifer. Or puke her guts out, whichever comes first. Now, here's the thing about the puke. Do not move in it, like at all. It will damage you while you move in it. The fucked part about it is that it will start to damage her when she moves a fucking centimeter, and the best part about it, some genius decided to have her pause in between each hit, resetting the damage count. Also, in my experience, the puke got me knocked down, so yeah, that was fun. Though, the first boss really shows that the combat needed hefty reworking, because Hoffman will make you hate all of your life choices. Now, he's not as bad as I'm making him out to be, don't get me wrong, but his main problem is that almost all of his attacks will knock Jennifer down. Brown can hold him in place, but he didn't really help me out that much. And also, if you're not careful, Brown can get knocked into critical condition very easily, meaning he won't do shit.
Man's best friend.
My fuck jokes aside, it's just best to have Brown out of the way because he will knock him out of the way and go in for the pimp smack to knock Jennifer down. Now, the last boss, well, shit, he's pissed easy. Though it's really easy to get the bad ending. Look, all I'm saying is, the combat is the only thing that brings this game down for me. It's sluggish, and I wish it was reworked, because even though Jennifer is anything but a fighter, her attacks are just too stiff. It's nothing you can't get used to, but bosses, large groups of enemies, and those damn bird imps will make you hate your decision for downloading the ISO file. The in-game graphics look okay for the time. The only downside is the atmosphere of the game. It's not really scary to me. The main atmospheric noises you'll get is like creaking pipes, a siren, metal clanging, and, well, wind blowing by. And that's really about it. And no, having the imps run around didn't really help me feel scared. They actually pissed me off more than anything. But then again, I already stated my piece on them. The atmosphere just doesn't really do anything for me, and even if it's more of an action game, let me point towards Resident Evil 4. Again, despite its focus on action, it did get some good scares on me, like when you take control of Ashley at one point in the game. I'm a little bit bitter we didn't get the fixed camera angles in the West like Japan did, but I really love the atmosphere in this section, especially with the zealots chanting whatever they're saying in Spanish. Then, going into the room with the suits of armor, all you can hear is Ashley's footsteps. And then, once you open the door to the puzzle room, you're greeted with this. That noise. Oh, good lord, it gets under my skin each time I hear it. In a good way, mind you. And when the suits of armor actually start walking, oh fuck, they terrify the shit out of me. And here, there is nothing to get me jumpy, and that's a bit of a disappointment. Now, the FMVs of the game are actually beautiful. Again, I prefer games to use more unique art styles, yada yada yada, but I will grant this, given enough love, they can hold up. Now, the acting for these cutscenes are great, and it's actually motion capture, which somehow shocked me. That's pretty much a standard for a lot of 3D video games, and I don't know why this shocks me, but I just love how the Japanese actors portrayed the characters physically. In terms of voice acting, I love it. Every actor feels like they fit each character perfectly. This is really a performance I didn't really like. In terms of music, it's great, with my favorite song being the credits theme. I love Suicide. I just love the way it's sung. The piano and strings are perfect and just blends together, well, perfectly. Now, if you don't play this game at all, at least give that song a listen. The only big problem with the soundtrack is, well, how limited it is. You'll hear the same exact songs all the damn time, and I just wish we had a bigger sound pool because it gets kinda ear grating at times, even if I do like the soundtrack. So now, even though I didn't spend a lot of time on this game, taking in account of story, gameplay, graphics, and sound, Rule of Rose receives a 7 out of 10. The only problem this game has is, well, the gameplay. The combat is so stiff and makes this game so sluggish, especially during bosses. Though with the regular enemies, mainly when you're not stuck in a room with them, are so piss easy to run around. Well, until they start putting those damn birds or pigs in areas where one has amazing reach while the others can hit you from behind when they're only charging forward. Oh, I also almost forgot how much Jennifer doesn't want to pick up items. Seriously, you have to keep walking around in circles just for her to pick up some of these items. Well, at least in my experience. Brown is a good mechanic, having him sniff out stuff for you, though it can feel like a game of follow the leader half the time. I mean, it's a great idea, though. I wish they did that dead end thing more often than they did. The graphics are good, though it doesn't really build a scary atmosphere, in my opinion. Same with the sound design, though the music, oh man, that is some fucking great music. And the voice acting is also great as well. I really don't want to go further into the story. It is a tragic story that I really feel like you should go and experience for yourself. That's mainly the reason why this video is as short as it is, so sorry if you're expecting something larger than what I presented. Now, at this point in time, Rule of Rose is only available on the Sony PlayStation 2. If you decide to hunt down a physical copy of this game, be prepared to spend a fuckload. It's not really worth it until a re-release of this game is made available for modern systems. I would really love for this game to come to Switch, and hope that it does come to something one day. Especially since the developers, Onion Games, made a survey to ask people what games they want to see brought to modern consoles. It's unfortunately closed now, but hopefully this game does come back. And if it does come to modern consoles, I'll be buying every single physical copy for all the systems, even if I don't own a PS5 or Series X. What I'm trying to say is, play this game, you are missing out. If you don't want to deal with the combat, then, well, watch a Let's Play. The story is just great, and if I made a top 10 game list, this would definitely land on the top 3. Rule of the Rose, while it's not without its hiccups, it is just fantastic. As roses in May, it is pure white, just like sea.